You've got a Ferrari and you've got a Ford. Two very different cars, one thing in common. Those cars can't go anywhere without petrol, and you need petrol in both cars to move them. So buying a Ferrari is pointless if there's no petrol to put into it. Finance is the petrol of business. It's a thing that makes business work. The best accountants have a stomach. I've got a big one.
One finance term students pretend to understand but don't. Investment banking lifestyle, exciting or overrated? One habit that separates successful students right away. Should I go for a finance degree or not? Is that the right career for me? Will I be able to find job opportunities in the future if I go with this particular degree? What kind of challenges I will face? And most important thing, is that the right degree for me? Is that a right career for me or not? Hello everyone, my name is Dr. Ali Hayder. I'm a senior lecturer at Leeds Trinity University, and today I have invited Mr. Andy, who is also a senior lecturer of finance at Leeds Trinity University, to answer these very questions. So let's just have it. Thank you very much, Andy, for being here today. So the first question I have for you is, could you please tell us a bit about your education, your experiences, and what led you to become a teacher at Leeds Trinity University?
That's a good question. It's a long journey. I'm now in my 60s, so it's been a long time since I started. Yeah, I lived quite locally. I lived in Otley. I went to a local high school, Prince Andrew's Grammar School, which was a good formative experience. Went then to university in Durham and did a postgraduate in Leeds. And then was recruited into working for a large firm of accountants, worked for them for a number of years, trained and qualified with them a number of years, and then was especially headhunted by another firm. Went to work for them abroad and in the UK. Finally, I decided to start my own business. So started my own business, started my own practice, my own accounting and financial consultancy firm. Worked in that business successfully for about 11 years, 12 years, until we were sold. And we had an offer to buy us out. We were bought by another accounting firm who wanted to buy our client book. And I was going to sort of retire, but then a job came up at Leeds Trinity University. I did some teaching in school. I went into teach at Horsell School for a while, economics, which was my background, my first year of economics. Did some work that I enjoyed doing that. And so I got a taste for teaching, got a taste for teaching there, many sixth form, older pupils. So when the job at Leeds Trinity came up, it was 2 days a week. I thought, oh, I'll apply for this, give it a try. Went in there, enjoyed that, worked in education for 2 days a week there at the university. Then Catherine O'Connor, our old DVC, and Dennis Cobcher heard that was an accountant, and they wanted at that stage to bring an accounting degree onto the university book. We hadn't got one at that time, and there was nobody else to do it. So therefore I was sort of, would you take it on? And I moved across from education department into the business department at that stage under Dennis and began. So yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm a natural teacher. I think that I'm a natural. I enjoy accounting. I enjoy the investigation side of accounting. And I don't like the maths. I don't like the tax. I do it, but I don't like it. But I like the investigation and also the business advice and startups. And quite early in my career, I chose to specialise in business startup rather than, that area on viability and that kind of thing. So that was a very interesting area at that point. And luckily the firm was big enough so I could specialise in the area. And I feel the same way about teaching in a sense. The reason why I still come to work in the morning is I like to work with students. I like to meet people who are younger, enthusiastic, have got a career to build, and that's why I like getting involved in teaching.
Oh, that's great. And right now you are a senior lecturer of finance here, right?
I am. I was a few years ago what's called an academic group leader. That's the kind of head of department role that was created some time ago, and then stepped back. I'm now part-time. Senior lecturer in accounting and finance. And my modules are all built around accounting and finance, undergraduate and postgraduate.
Okay, then you are the right person to ask me this question, because what happens is, once a lot of students, when they are done with their A levels, they are thinking of, what degree should I go for? And some of them are thinking about, I should go for a business degree and more specifically a finance degree.
Yeah.
So, but they are also wondering, am I the right person for it? So if I'm a student, for example, or there are a lot of students who are looking at you right now, they are thinking of going into finance, but they're not sure if they are the right people for it. So how would they decide?
You need three things to be a successful operator in finance, and they include accounting in finance, also banking, also brokerage, also stock brokerage, etc. These three things. The first thing you need to be nosy. If you're interested and nosy and like to find things out and like to dig till you find things you want to find out, then that's the skill you need to have for that. That's interesting. So if you find yourself always listening to conversations or trying to find things in books, that's good, okay, or online. The second thing you need is to be able to at least understand that 3 is bigger than 2. People think that accounting and finance requires great maths. It doesn't. We've all got calculators and computers. We don't need that. Be able to visualize numbers and know that 3 is bigger than 2 or 6 is bigger than 1 is important. That just gives you that sort of idea. And there are some people out who can't do that. They can't visualize. And the third thing you need to have is personal skills. You've got to be good at talking to people, because people will very quickly trust you with what is their future, their finances, and they're worried about that. And when they hear the government talking about oil prices or whatever, panic and want reassurance, want to talk to you, not a machine, not a chatbot, to talk to you personally. So if you're nosy, you can visualize quantities and numbers, and you're good at talking to people and communicating. That's the 3 key skills you need.
Okay, because that's very interesting, because I always assume, or a lot of people assume, I need to be good at maths. If I'm not good with numbers, or if I always get lower grades in my maths, finance is not the right thing for me. And to be honest with you, that's what initially I thought as well.
Yeah.
But what you're telling me, that is not
Not at all.
the
Not
right
at all.
thing.
We don't, perhaps 25, 30 years ago, when I first began, you did need to have some good numerical skills. Now you don't need that because of AI, because of computers, because of calculators, because of the way that systems work. Probably half the clients I've worked with in the last few years, QuickBooks or Sage or online platforms, so they don't need maths. I don't need maths. I get the results at a button. It's understanding those numbers and saying, well, but don't forget what numbers are, Eileen. Numbers are simply the story of the business in numbers. So you read a book, you read a storybook to your children, or you read a storybook yourself, you get a story about somebody's life, or whatever else. Numbers do that as well. You get to accounts, they tell you the story of the business. So it's understanding not how to add them up and subtract or divide, what they mean to a business is what you have to try and do.
Okay, now it makes sense. So what you're saying is one has to be very curious, nosy, and they should be able to visualize, to understand, what they are trying to communicate within the context of a business.
Yeah.
And of course, they should have personal skills as well. Yeah.
There's one key thing to remember, and I think I was trying to send a message to anybody about finance, particularly people thinking about a career in finance eventually. You've got a Ferrari and you've got a Ford, 2 very different cars, one thing in common. Those cars can't go anywhere without petrol, and you need petrol in both cars to move them. So buying a Ferrari is pointless if there's no petrol to put into it. Finance is the petrol of business. It's a thing that makes business work. There's no single business discipline, even marketing, even management, one-time finance isn't required. So it's at the heart of everything. Finance is the middle. It's the hub in the wheel that businesses do. Because you have a wonderful advert, you can have great product, you can have great publicity, you can have wonderful management practices. If you've got no money, you don't survive.
Yeah.
So but there's always a demand out there for people who are good with finance.
Yeah. There are a lot of questions that I can ask about personal finance advice, whichever in their context. Because finance is, as you say, is the backbone of it.
It is, and most people they worry about most.
Exactly.
Most firms.
Okay. My second question to you is, so let's say, there is a student and they are thinking of, let's say you have already sold them with, they should go for a finance degree, hopefully. Now they are thinking, okay, what kind of careers I should go into, what I can have in the future. So I'm done with 4 years of degree. What kind of careers I'm looking for, now?
One of the problems I sort of referred to earlier is that finance is everywhere in business. I think realistically, you've got 2 broad pathways as a finance graduate. Traditional pathways are things like going to accountancy, chartered accountancy, certified accountancy, financial accountancy, whatever it's going to be your specialist area you're interested in getting involved in. Some people are really silly and they specialise in tax or something particular, or auditing is a particular skill. That's the traditional route. That's also includes banking, brokerage, fintech, things of that nature, which are allied to finance but require that financial background. But increasingly, the second stream has become popular, which is people in general business. So management, more than anything else. People going to firms to run HR departments, to run marketing departments, also need to have that financial background. So finance is a bit of a general, it's a bit like I always regard this, it could be perhaps I'm old-fashioned, but I think of a finance and an accounting or finance degree as like a driving license. It doesn't tell you which car to drive, but it gives you the license to do it.
Yeah.
So you can choose manufacturing, you can choose retail, you can choose professional services, whatever, it's still a passport and license to do things, which
It makes sense, and it's a very, it's a unique view you are presenting, because what is happening in the minds of students right now, especially when they are 18, 19 years old, they don't have any idea about finance. Whatever they have heard about finance is maybe from their family, someone was, already a financial accounting person, and they're making good money. So automatically, if I follow this, if I become a tech person, for example, automatically I will be able to make more money. That's the view, or that's the mindset they have. So how would
I think that's a very good way of putting it. It's a good way of explaining it, I think. Because, I think there's very few people who watching the podcast now, perhaps, very few people who haven't been involved today, sometime, in a financial transaction. At some point in the last few days, they made a choice what they spend the money on. Do they buy A? Do they buy B? They know they're not going to be able to buy both of those things if they haven't got enough cash. They make a choice. And the minute you start making a choice because of cash, you're doing finance. Whether you know it or not, whether you think you're an artist or something, you're still doing finance when you choose to buy those paints rather than those paints because of the money you've got in your pocket. So you can't avoid finance. It's everywhere, And so I think, career-wise, it runs the same way, that whatever you do in life, eventually you're going to come against this thing where money's required, and that is finance.
Yeah. So your basic, you start off with finance and then see how it goes from there.
That's what I do. I mean, as you know, our degrees at Leeds Trinity are sort of unique in a sense because we have this common first year. So you get a chance to sample. If you had a degree in marketing here or in operation management here, you get a chance to sample some accounting while you're doing the first year. You'd be surprised how many students suddenly discover accounting isn't that, and accounting is quite enjoyable. And they move, that changes their view of accounting quite early on. So, my view is very much, if you're interested in accounting or finance, great. If you're not, you can be persuaded.
Yeah,
By experiencing it.
Yeah, okay. No, that makes sense. And the degree we are offering here, which you are leading, you start with everything. You taste the flavors of all the modules.
You do about 4 areas at the beginning because that means that 2 reasons. First of all, it means that when you start second year or your second or level 5 rather, start you on level playing field. Everybody knows what they need to know about marketing, about operations, about finance. So it's a leveler, but it also means people can experience parts of business they didn't perhaps think they were interested in. My biggest conversion is people who leave marketing and come to accounting.
As a marketing teacher, of course, that's a lot thing I bought. But if they're coming to you, it's like,
Oh, at a school, they're still back of the class, and they said, "Well, you can't do maths. You're the bottom set," and that puts them off accounting and finance. When they get there, as it isn't about that at all, it changes the attitude.
Yeah.
I'm not getting you person.
No, I understand. But that's a good thing because, normally when I have seen students, when they come in, someone else is influencing them. But once they come here and let's say, you are able to convert them to go into, instead of marketing, marketing, you go into finance, at least, they are making that decision consciously, based on their own potential, based on their own strength, which is.
We do lose some the other way.
Okay.
We have some who go to marketing, but we can't avoid that. We try and pull them back.
Yeah. But as I think the main thing is a student realizing, even after 1 year or 2 years in the university, that, marketing or finance is not the right thing for me. And I want to, based on my own intelligence, based on my own potential interest, I have to.
And with our degree here, that's what we do. I mean, this is why, obviously I've been here a number of years now. And when Denis Kopchev designed the business curriculum here, he designed this common first year because he felt that's the best way for students to taste and experience everything. Then make a choice. Hey, don't worry about that first year. Come and see what you can do. And that was when Dennis brought that in 2015. That was unique. Nobody else in university did that common first year.
And sorry, just for the sake of other people, who is Dennis?
Professor Denis Kopchev was the head of department here. He's a professor of business education, and he works now mainly with postgrads. But when I first got involved, he was the head of department here. So he's an extremely well-read academic.
Okay, that's great. Now, I'm going to ask a bit, you might find it odd, but I have to because this is what students are thinking about. So let's say students come in, they did a degree at Leeds Trinity in finance. What kind of careers they can go into? And my second question is, what is the pay is like there? How much money I will be able to make? Because that is one of the fundamental questions that's happening.
I'm not very well qualified to talk about some of the.
But if you can just give an example of,
But if you're going to train to be a chartered accountant, for example, let's say you've done your degree, you've got your degree in accounting and finance, or finance, and you then start a training contract with an accounting firm, and you'll train for 3 years doing exams in taxation and audit. Now, when you first start that training contract, your salary is not very good, because you're being trained.
Yeah.
And the company, in fact, will make money out of you because they're charging more for your time than they're paying you. But by the time you qualify 3 years later, your salary will double. Talking now about a training account will probably start on about £25,000 a year. And that will, by the time they qualify, will become £50,000 a year.
That's not bad, actually. Yeah.
When they move into the next echelon, which is moving towards management in accounting firms, and they qualify as an auditor, for example, then you're talking about £65,000, £70,000. And then in small firms, partnerships, you become a partner after 4 or 5 years of working in a firm, normally, a small firm. You're talking about £100,000 roughly. So on average, a chartered accountant today will earn between £90,000 and £105,000 roughly.
Okay. No, that makes sense, and it's quite lucrative if you think about it compared to.
It is. I mean, obviously, I left to set up my own firm. My own firm, we did quite well. I started on my own. I then took on 2 partners as time went on, and we grew. So we were able to, to pay ourselves what we felt was right for us in that sense. And we sold the business on.
Okay. My next subsequent question is, and a lot of people are wondering within the context of AI nowadays, because I was reading an article just a few days ago, and it was basically the idea was accountant will be, we don't have to worry about accountants. We don't need accountants when we have AI, ChatGPT. So how do you look at it? Do you think accountants will be there in the next 5 years?
Absolutely fantastic, because the only bits of accountancy which nobody likes is what I call the grunt work, which is the stuff about number crunching and checking bank statements and trying to check bank statements against financial records, against invoices. AI does all of that. Fantastic. So where the jobs threat comes will be those doing bookkeeping. Bookkeeping is dying, basically, because either software platforms like QuickBooks are doing the work for them, or ChatGPT or other AI platforms are also doing some balancing and equation work on that. The output from that is where the accountant starts. So the accountant uses the information produced by the platforms to make decisions about the business, recommendations about the business, on viability, on sustainability, on performance. At the moment, they're still human functions. I'm not sure that AI platforms at the moment have the intuition that you require. They're good at the fact building, which is the grunt work, but using the facts that have been produced to interpret those and find the nuances in those to build a business, make recommendations, I think that will remain human for a long time to come. I just don't know. The best accountants have a stomach. I've got a big one. And it literally is about saying you can recognize, you get a feeling when you see something wrong in a firm.
Yeah.
It's not just the numbers, it's what numbers mean. And that's a human thing. And it's about experience and that. So I'm not worried. I think if I was a bookkeeper now, I'd be very worried indeed. But as a qualified accountant,
because what you're suggesting is AI can give you the data, but it is the human being who can make sense of that data.
Use that, yeah.
Exactly.
That, and particularly contextualizing it.
Yeah.
Because, if you are doing an audit for a firm, a candle making company, it's very specific what that company can and can't do in its own market. It's actually got, it's quite narrow.
Yeah, no, makes sense. Now I'm going to ask you about the job market, because a lot of students are thinking, the job market, the UK especially, is very bad. I'm not able to find jobs. And even after this degree from, let's say, Leeds University, 4 years, finance in a degree, I'll still be out and working somewhere, outside of the financial circle. So what the job market is like?
It's good.
It's good. Okay, that's simple. Because a lot of people are saying it's not good, and you're like asserting it is good. So how?
Right, it depends what you want to do.
Yeah.
The big 4 firms, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Ernst & Young, etc., the big firms, they have slimmed down their recruitment processes because they're recruiting less accountants because they feel they need less at the moment to train. The world of employment for accountants is interesting because the vast majority of accountancy practices are small practices based in the high streets, in Leeds, in Otley, in Guiseley, in Yeadon, small towns. Every high street will have a solicitor, and every high street will have an accountant. Now, those practices need trainees. They need new blood coming into the profession to take the old blood out. Now, we've got a real problem in accountancy at the moment, particularly chartered accountancy, that the vast majority of chartered accountants are age 50 or over. They're going to retire. So there's quite a big demand out there for people who graduate to come on and become trainees in those small practices. They don't advertise nationally. They don't have grad schemes. They're simply local accountants. You circulate your CV, they pick you up and you train. Now, there are things students can do to make themselves more employable. But ultimately, these small practices are the place to go for accounting training. In finance generally, the third biggest recruiter at the moment in the UK financial sector is the Bank of England. They've just announced another 600 jobs in Leeds, and they want people with finance backgrounds and experience. So you're talking about, when you get into fintech, you get into AI-based fintech, the jobs out there are quite are good for us. So most of my students, if they want to work in accounting, will find an accounting place when they graduate, or they'll find a way into that by doing something allied to accounting. Give an example of that. Morrison's supermarkets, big supermarket chain in the UK, is one of the largest trainers of accountants in the UK through their schemes for ACCA. So they actually train accountants to work for Morrison's. Enterprise Rent-A-Car. Enterprise train around about 400 accountants every year through their own schemes. So working in other companies aren't accounting companies. It's often the way to do it as well. Leeds City Council trains a number of accountants every year who are graduates in their area of accounting, defense accounting. So it's such a wide area, the jobs are out there.
Yeah. I think, what I think is the problem is not that UK has a bad job market. It's just that there's lack of awareness, because from where you are telling me that, there are opportunities, Bank of England and Morrison, the companies, we have small businesses, small financial accounting firms who are there. We just have to do a bit of research to find that out.
We do. On that, it's literally a case of, the vast majority of my students who want to do accounting will find a home in an accounting practice. Very few make the grad schemes. Grad schemes will suck in a lot of students, and then, so let's say, for example, a firm I used to work for, KPMG, in the old days. KPMG will take in, say, 500 people on the grad scheme. They don't want 500 accountants, they want 100. So over those years, they'll gradually reduce the number of those they keep through exam failures or whatever else, who will leave and go elsewhere. So my advice to many of our students is go for the small firms. You get a richer experience, you get across-the-board experience of working in all sorts of areas, not just be stuck in one big area.
Okay, that's very interesting. You said go to small firms.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm a student and I'm in a university right now, let's say Leeds Trinity University, how do you think the university and professors just as you can help me find job with small businesses?
Well, of course, I'm still networked.
But you have
a lot of networks, of course, still, and there are networks out there which I introduced. I took a student of mine to a network meeting a few months ago in Harrogate. So we use our own networks. We're also, as a university, of course, we're involved in the Leeds Trinity Business Network. And that business network does contain accounting firms and also firms that train accountants that aren't on the face of an accounting firm. So we have got our own networks in university. And of course, Leeds is the UK's second financial city. The towns around Leeds have got a number of high street accountants around there. What you do, you get on a machine, you Google it, accountants near me, up comes a list.
Yeah.
And they're all, I tell you what, I say from personal experience, the three firms in the town that I currently live in all need a trainee.
Yeah. Okay, that's really. But I think you gave us a secret, which is, have good relationship with your professors, with your teachers, because they can really, if they like you or, or they're willing, they can actually help you out finding job opportunities.
The only reason why I work at Leeds Trinity
is
because of the students. I'm not interested, I'm not bothered about anything else. And it's the students I'm bothered about, really. So my aim in life is to make sure they get the best experience they can, of course. And if I can help them get on the job ladder, that job startup, of course I'll do it for them, because that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, no, that's great. Makes sense. Okay, Andy, I'm going to ask you some rapid fire questions. So the idea is that you don't think much, you just give an answer right away. Okay? So let's start with the first one. If finance was a person, what would it be?
Margaret Thatcher.
Not rigid, but like very strict, very stern person. Bull market or bear market? Your mood most of the time.
Bull market.
Excel, Python, or let someone else do it?
Let someone else do it.
Okay. AI maybe. For example.
Yeah, particularly
Right.
now. Yes. Or software platforms. Yeah.
Okay. QuickBooks, as you have mentioned. Yeah. One finance term students pretend to understand but don't.
Ooh, materiality.
Okay, I'm not going to go into it. If you weren't in finance, what would be you doing?
As a vicar.
Investment banking lifestyle, exciting or overrated?
Exciting.
Exciting. One habit that separates successful students right away.
Termination.
Determination. Okay. Teach theory or make money, which is harder?
Make money.
Make money. Okay. Biggest red flag in a student or graduate?
Unreliability.
Unreliability. Okay. One thing about financial careers that surprises people often.
Opportunities.
Opportunities. So you said it's
More answer than I think.
Okay. If you had 10,000 today, 10,000 pound today, would you either invest, save, or spend?
Invest.
Invest, right? Okay. Future of finance, human, AI, or both?
Both.
Both.
Definitely both. We need the human element.
Okay, that's great. One last question I have. How much time do we have? What time is it right now? 1 o'clock. Okay.
It'll be okay.
Okay, so okay.
Yeah, you can start after 3, 2, and start with the last question.
My last question. Okay.
3, 2, start.
My last question to you now is international students. So there are a lot of international students who want to come to the UK and they want to do their bachelor's, master's in finance. The issue they are facing is they are not able to find job opportunities because of, as you can imagine, visa restriction, or they need sponsorship as well.
Yeah.
So what kind of plan, or strategy do you think they should follow to get job sponsorship here in the UK?
I think it's important to try before you get here to try and make contact with companies and with networks in the UK who might sponsor you. I think arriving in the UK then trying to look and then try to find sponsor can be quite hard. So my advice is keep in touch with the university early doors, ask the university for their suggestions or their help, and we can put suggestions forward to those students which might help them get some sort of sponsorship for those opportunities. It is very difficult to do that, I realise that. But if there's one city in Britain where that's more possible than others, it's Leeds, because Leeds has got a massive amount of opportunity. But I say, when you're living abroad, living in another country, probably don't understand how that works. So my advice is when the offer comes through to study here, get in touch with the university and see if we can help point you to a place to get sponsorship for.
Exactly. And especially once you come here, let's say Leeds, Manchester, anywhere, you talk to your professors, you talk to the careers department in university and to identify, and they would help. Yeah.
Well, help because we're all here for students. That's what we're here for.
Okay, that's good. And what kind of challenges, what sort of future do you see of finance in the next 5 to 10 years now?
Domestically, it is still going to be important. We are going through a period of economic change in the UK, thanks to world events, of course. There are ever more tighter financial regulations on things like audit and reporting, which are going to mean jobs for people because the changes are happening. But internationally, it is huge, particularly people working or living or going to work in developing countries, as we would call them. Because, again, finance in some areas have been sort of not neglected, but hasn't been front and centre. And global firms, when they move to these new countries to work and operate, need people on the ground who speak the language, know the culture, but also have the financial acumen to be able to build that company's profile in a country. Massive opportunities there. Huge opportunities.
Okay, that's great. Okay, thank you so much, Andy, for
Thank you for the questions. I enjoyed it. Thank you.